Okay, now the next question, 46th. Consider the following pairs. Now, one side it is given as carbon units and the other side it is given as eligible projects. Okay, this particular topic again is from climate change, and I am again telling you like climate change is another favorite area of UPSC. Why I am saying this, just see the 2016 prelims question. There are 6 questions from climate change. Okay, and in all the previous years also, like all the current affair developments happening in this area of climate change, the UPSC frequently asks questions from those areas, like whether it is UNFCCC or Kyoto Protocol or any market-based mechanisms. See, this particular pair type of question, if you see the options, you will understand that, or if you see that statements, you will understand that those keywords or key terms, UPSC has already asked questions about those terms. Okay, what do you mean by those terms? Like in separate questions, they have already asked about these questions. And see, we have already given you, like I have already given you materials like discussing these particular topics, right? So, if you see all the left side options, they are nothing but like market-based mechanisms or carbon units that can be earned through market-based mechanisms which came into being at the time of Kyoto Protocol. So, all the market-based mechanisms came into being during Kyoto Protocol. Okay, and we discussed about a concept called carbon credit, right? The allowed emissions, the extra amount of allowed emissions can be traded with other nations in such a way that carbon was made in a commodity, right? We have already discussed these things in detail in our classes, right? Now, there are 3 market-based mechanisms, one related with land use and land use change and forestry, and that unit will be removal unit. Like if a particular nation is investing in forestry activities, which will enable, which will absorb the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and it will remove that much amount of carbon from the atmosphere, and it will, the credit earned through such activities will be called as removal unit. Any nation which is having a target based on Kyoto Protocol can use this removal unit as carbon credit in order to satisfy their emission reduction target. Now, another mechanism, clean development mechanism. Clean development mechanism is between a developed nation and a developing nation, and the carbon unit earned through clean development mechanism will be certified emission reduction unit. And now one more market based mechanism is there, joint implementation, and it will be between 2 developed nations, and the carbon unit earned through joint implementation, it will be emission reduction unit. Okay, see these things has been in detail given in our material, right? So the answer will come out as 2 and 3. Again, the question is which of the following is not correctly matched. So we will understand that the removal unit, the eligible activities, red plus activities. I told you about LULUCF, right? LULUCF is same as that of red plus activities. Red plus activities comes under the LULUCF. So if a particular nation is investing in red plus activities like deforestation or degradation, stopping deforestation or degradation, it will make them earn removal units. Okay, so the answer will come out as 2 and 3. Any doubts? Okay, fine. Now the 47th question. Consider the following. Various gases has been given there, and which of the above are greenhouse gases? Now you need to find out the odd one. Say again a 6-statement question, one of the easiest to answers, right? If you know few things, if you know few options, you will be able to get to the answer. Now just see about the second one as well as 4th one, nitric oxide and carbon monoxide. See, these gases, they are not greenhouse gases, but if you ask me like, does they result in greenhouse effect or does they result in global warming? Yes. How? Because nitric oxide and carbon monoxide can affect the concentration of other greenhouse gases. Sorry, not the SF6, rather the other naturally occurring greenhouse gases. So in a way we can say that carbon monoxide and nitric acid will result in global warming because it is affecting the concentration of other greenhouse gases, but they as such they don't have any property of greenhouse gases, right? So the question is about which of the above are greenhouse gases. So you can eliminate nitric oxide as well as carbon monoxide. So the answer will come out as B. Again, if you got any doubt, you can refer our material, like the first material about climate change. The details about gases has been given there, and the sources of these gases, like how the methane and how these gases are produced naturally in our atmosphere, as well as how they are synthetically produced. Okay, so go through that details. It is one of the probable questions that can be asked from this particular topic. The technical aspect of climate change, how it is caused, what are the impacts, or what are the gases which is resulting in climate change. Okay, now the next question, 48. With reference to the agreement at UNFCCC meeting in Paris in 2015, which of the following statements is or are correct? See, for this year's prelims, like 2016 prelims, they have already asked a similar question related with Paris agreement. So just go through these statements, like the agreement dictates emission reduction target to developed countries. Do you see any kind of abnormality in that statement? The agreement dictates emission reduction target to developed country. See, that particular feature is the feature of Kyoto Protocol, not the Paris Agreement. Kyoto Protocol actually told like developed nations, the Kyoto Protocol gave the developed nations a particular target for commitment periods. So you can say that it dictates emission reduction targets to the developed nations. But in the case of Paris Agreement, the negotiations were based on nationally determined contributions, or at the time it was called as INDC. And what is the important feature of INDC? They are voluntary pledges made by each nation according to their national circumstances. And Paris Agreement came into being based on NDCs. Like each country which has already submitted their NDC, they have to abide by their NDC. That is what is Paris Agreement is all about, right? So the first statement will be wrong, and we can eliminate A as well as which option? D. Now what left is B as well as C, and again B. Just go through that statement. It is one of the key features of the Paris Agreement, or the negotiations happening in UNFCCC. In order for us to stop the irreversible impacts of climate change, the global warming should be limited below 2 degrees Celsius comparing with pre-industrial level temperatures. Clear? Now, the third one. Now it all depends on whether the third statement is true or false. The agreement reaffirmed the binding obligations of developed countries under the UNFCCC to support the efforts of developing countries. See, with Kyoto Protocol and the negotiations under UNFCCC, it was decided that the developed nations, they got historical responsibility, so they are obliged to provide technological support as well as financial support towards other nations. Okay, and based on that, we have already studied about GCF, Green Climate Fund, and based on the historical responsibility of developed country, it was decided that by 2020 they will have to provide $100 billion. Okay, so again the Paris Agreement actually reaffirmed this target, and so far we have only mobilized around 10.2 billion. So before 2020, the developed nations need to mobilize $100 billion in order to support the adaptation as well as mitigation projects, help with other countries like LDC countries or like other developing nations. So this is another key feature of Paris Agreement, which it reaffirmed the binding obligations of developed nations. So the answer will come out as C. Now the next question, 49th question. Which of the following statements regarding nationally determined contributions is or are not correct? NDCs are voluntary pledges made by nations to reduce their carbon emission through its INDC, India committed to reduce 33 to 35% of its total emission by 2030. See, again, two statement question. You need to understand both statements, then only you will be able to get to the answer, right? So the first statement, NDCs are voluntary pledges made by nations to reduce their carbon emission, which is actually true. Okay, they are voluntary. Again, I already told you that NDCs are voluntary pledges committed based on each country's national circumstances, right? So the first statement is true. And now the second one, through its NDC, India committed to reduce 33 to 35% of its total emission. Now, that is actually the key word, total emission. See, when I was discussing Paris Agreement, I told you that like India's INDC, actually, the development is very imperative for us, like very important for us. We cannot have a total cap on our emission because it will be a cap on our development. So what India has done is, other than committing a total, committing to reduce total emission, what India did was, we came up with another term called as reducing emission intensity. Emission intensity is nothing but the carbon emissions made or carbon emissions per GDP growth. Okay, so we can say that the emission intensity, it will not be a cap on our development. So it is very important concept related with INDC as well as Paris Agreement. Okay, under Paris Agreement, India don't have any cap on our developmental activities. We can still emit carbon emissions, but it is very important that we shift to low carbon path right now itself. So again, coming back to the question, the second statement, it is actually false. It is not total emission, rather it is emission intensity. Now, that key word, but there is a lot of difference between concepts. If you are saying total emission, it is actually, if India is reducing total emission, that means we are having a cap on our development. But since it is emission intensity, we can still emit carbon emissions. But at the same time, we need to shift to the low carbon path. Okay, any doubts? Fine. Again, if you got any other doubts, like you can refer our material. It is in detail given in our material. Now, the 50th question. Which of the following is or are cited as symptoms of climate change? Okay, symptoms of climate change. Just go through the options. Again, a 4-statement question. First option, the warmer fish such as cod moving to north. Second option, widespread blooms of algae in the Bering Sea. Third one, shrinking of glaciers in Greenland. Fourth, shrinking of glaciers in Western Himalayas. First, look at the fourth statement, shrinking of Himalayas or the shrinking of glaciers in the Western Himalayas. When I was discussing the impacts of climate change on India, I told you about our Himalayan glaciers are melting, right? The UPSC has already asked a question for your mains from this particular topic. What are the symptoms of climate change related with the shrinking of Himalayan glaciers? But if we look at the shrinking of Himalayan glaciers, we will understand that the shrinking of these glaciers, they are limited to central Himalayas as well as eastern Himalayas, because climate change affects India through Indian monsoon. Through climate change, the thermal contrast between Indian Ocean and our subcontinent region is getting reduced, so that as we progress, the monsoon rainfall is actually getting reduced. Okay, so if the monsoon is getting reduced, the places having precipitation predominantly from monsoon, it will not have much glaciers. And if we apply this concept to the Himalayan region, we know that, see, if we divide the Himalayan region into western, central and eastern region, we know that the central region as well as the eastern Himalaya, they get rainfall mainly from monsoon. And precipitation, not only rainfall, we can say that it is precipitation, right? The precipitation will be in the form of snow, or it can be in the form of rainfall. But if you observe the western Himalayas, I told you about western disturbance, right, bringing winter rainfall for India. So the precipitation in Jammu Kashmir region, or in generally in our western Himalayas, the precipitation is mainly through winter rainfall, which is provided by western disturbance. So that this western disturbance is not being affected by climate change. So what this implies that there will not be any shrinking of glaciers in our western Himalayas, rather the shrinking will be limited to central Himalayas as well as eastern Himalayas. And if we progress towards the other regions also, this melting will be there, but not to the western Himalayas. Again, I have already discussed this in the class. Now, if you have this knowledge, again, since it is a 4 statement question, you can eliminate options. Now, you can eliminate A as well as C. So what left will be B or D, and the last option, or D, is actually none of the above. So again, go through the options. The shrinking of glaciers in Greenland, it is been well discussed in articles, and it has been well discussed in our material and all. So shrinking of glaciers in our Greenland region, it is actually a symptom of climate change. Recently also there has been a lot of news related with this. And again, the first two options, Bering Sea as well as the first option, like warmer water fish such as cod moving towards north. Now what does that imply? Warm water fish such as cod is moving towards north. It means the ocean situated towards northern region, they are getting warmer. That is why this cod fish is actually moving towards north region. So if this is happening, this cod will be actually invasive species there, so that it will result in in the biodiversity loss towards the northern region. Again, another symptom of climate change, because due to global warming, our oceans or seas towards the northern latitude, they are getting warmer, and that is why actually there is the melting of glaciers or polar ice caps. Melting of polar ice caps is there in the northern region. Now the second one, widespread blooms of algae in the Bering Sea. Again, if those regions getting more insulation or more energy from the sun, it will result in resulting in more blooms of algae, again, which has been already dealt in our class. Now the common area for this first and second option, it is actually Arctic Sea. It has been said that due to the climate change, it has been there are record temperatures happening in Arctic Sea, and majorly this is happening in Bering Sea as well as Chukchi Sea. Again, when I discussed about ideal, I told you that both of those regions are important, right? And it is important because they are showing the symptoms of climate change. So again, the answer will come out as B. Okay, fine. Any doubts? No, right? Now see, climatology, again I am telling you, climatology is really important for geography, or really important for UPSC's actually, climatology is actually UPSC's favorite area. See, this will be understand if you go through our topic wise analysis. It will be there in our material, or it will be there in our website also. Okay, so you will understand that if you see the previous year questions, UPSC generally asks more questions related with climatology. This trend is there in all the previous years. Okay, especially this year they asked from 6 questions from climate change. In the previous year also they asked questions from climate change, climatology. So what I am telling you is, all those who have made mistakes in this test, don't worry, go back and take our material and see where you have made mistakes. If you where you need more conceptual clarity, go through that part. See, in the case of climatology, you cannot mug up concepts. Maybe you will be able to do that for your geomorphology, but you won't be able to do that for climatology. All the things, they are interlinked, interconnected. So if you don't know a particular concept, you will not understand the other concepts also. So it is really important that you read the material properly from starting towards the last module. Okay, and if you do that, I can assure you that you will be able to answer all the prelims questions coming from climatology. Okay, so thank you.